This building should have been shaking a little bit on January 1st, 2008. That was the day the first baby boomers in Minnesota turned age 62. It marks the very beginning of an immense wave of retirees that's already sparking a huge change in our state. Hello, I'm Don Shelby, and thank you for joining us. The boomer generation has demanded a different world at every stage in its life, and it's doing it again. The impact of more than 1 million people reaching retirement age over the next couple of decades in Minnesota will continue to rattle not just our state capital, but every city hall and county building across Minnesota. Its effects will be felt by everyone. We'll spend the next hour examining what's going on and what Minnesotans are doing to adjust to a new future created by this tsunami of baby boomers. Because as you are about to see, change we must.
We not only knew that this was going to happen, we knew when it was going to happen.
It's no surprise to recently retired state demographer Tom Gillespie. Profound changes of great magnitude are afoot in Minnesota, and he's been watching it coming for years.
January 2008 is important for two things. One is that that was the month that the Great Recession began. The other thing that happened in January of 2008 was that the first wave of the baby boom generation, that huge post-World War II generation, turned age 62 and became eligible for old age Social Security pension.
And that's only the beginning. Gillespie says we are now perched on the edge of an enormous retirement boom, a giant bulge of people reaching the end of their work life. This decade, nearly as many people in Minnesota and the United States will turn age 65 than in the previous 4 decades combined.
Societies don't age. In the history of human societies, we've never seen anything like this before. This is a totally new and unique event in the history of the world. And it's not just happening in Minnesota, and it's not just happening in the United States. This is happening over most of the world right now.
Over the next 20 years, the number of older Minnesotans, that is, folks 65 and older, will grow by 125%. It touches every racial group. In fact, the growth rates of these elderly will far exceed those of the white elderly population. Why does it matter so much to our state and local officials? As Minnesota's 1.3 million baby boomers retire,
two things happen. They eventually need more care, either social services or health care, and health care is really expensive. And to compound the problem, their incomes drop, so there's less to tax. And this is going to be a problem for 20 to 30 years.
In short, a daunting future looms for Minnesota, more expenses and a lot less revenue. Whether the economy is in a boom or a bust, or whether baby boomers put off their retirement for a few years, will make little difference, says Gillespie.
Basically, we are on an unsustainable course. Unless we start doing things differently, we will run into a situation where each biennium we will run a $2 to $4 billion deficit in Minnesota. We'll do everything we can to balance the budget. We'll cut schools and cut higher education and cut parks and cut roads and cut all these other things. And then we'll somehow balance the budget, and then 2 years later we come back with another $2 to $4 billion deficit, and then we cut.
And we're talking about
For many Minnesotans, the news is alarming, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle say they want citizens to understand there's nothing political about this new reality for the state.
Personally, I somewhat get offended when people insinuate that it's a political thing. And no, I don't think it is. It's what the facts are.
Do you think the state is ready for this demographic shift from your?
No, in general, we are not.
I don't think anyone's ready.
We've certainly had time to prepare for this. We didn't.
Because of the nature of our government, we don't like to deal with problems until they're on top of us. And I mean, this is historic.
We can't end up being another Greece. And so let's try to do something now to change this.
The most profound age shift in Minnesota's history is now sparking talk about a push for innovation in government services that's never been seen before.
You either raise revenues or you cut programs, and we may still need to do those things, and that'll still be part of the debate. But that's ignoring the third solution, the third way. And the third way is to increase productivity, is to do things differently, is to redesign government.
Redesign, innovation. These are the new watchwords for state, county, and city officials as they slowly re-examine every service government offers.
To me, redesign is doing things different with a goal of better outcomes and hopefully less expense.
We need to redesign our government systems to reflect these needs in the 21st century. I mean, many of the systems we operate came out of the 19th.
County officials outside the metro were the first to see the demographic shift happening in their communities and watched their budgets shrink. By necessity, they become models of innovation for the state.
We've had to try to look for ways for us to do it, not just cheaper, but better, faster.
And where we started was really trying to learn a new vocabulary, learn a new language, a language that focused more on outcomes and results, a language that focused a little bit more on effectiveness than just efficiencies. We've gotten pretty good at talking the talk. We got to get a lot better at walking the walk now.
As Minnesotans debate what they can do to stem the effects of this demographic tidal wave, Gillespie believes the future is up to us.
The only question before us right now is, will it end with a solution that we have helped craft, or will it end with the solution that has been imposed upon us? We will have to redesign. We will have to do things differently.
You feel that, Minnesota? The world is changing. There's something happening right here, right now, that's never happened before in all human history. Short version, we're getting old. And not just one at a time, but as a society, all at once. Think of it as a silver tsunami. And here in Minnesota, it's happening because the baby boomers are retiring in droves. Now, in the past, our state has been structured like this. Sure, there were old people who needed support, but luckily for policymakers, there were plenty of young folks ready to enter the workforce and generate the money. But don't mess with the demographics, because they are powerful animals. In the near future, with so many older citizens retiring, there simply won't be enough tax revenue to pay for everything without major changes. Here are some numbers. In 2010, 1 out of every 8 Minnesotans was over 65. By 2030, it's going to be 1 in 5. That means we're about to shift from a work-based economy to a retirement-based entitlement economy, and we need to figure out how to make it work. Pretty much right now, because it's already underway. Experts are calling this overall change the new normal, a time of chronic budget deficits and repeated cuts in government services. Not fun. But it's not all bad. Like all challenges, if we don't pretend it's not happening, and if we plan ahead, we can transform our economy to meet our changing needs. It will take innovation, restructuring, and a lot of other buzzwords that are easy to say but difficult to implement, but it's not impossible. And that's what you're feeling, Minnesota, a time of change and a time of challenge. Say hello to the new normal. You see, you can't escape the demographics. You can run, but they will chase you down. So as long as we have no place to go, let's take a closer look at the underlying drivers behind the new normal. Today, K-12 education and health and human services take up 3/4 of our state budget. And because we have an aging population, the medical assistance part is growing in leaps and bounds. And there's no easy answer. Right now, the number of high school graduates is going down, and it actually won't return to even 2008 levels until 2022. Retirements are also going to get more common. In only the first half of 2011, more state government workers retired than in all 2010. and this increase is continuing now. Clearly, the scales are tipping, and it's going to impact our economy. The number of experienced people in the workforce will shrink, and at the exact same time, the number of decision-making jobs will increase. If you look at Greece and all the turmoil they've been through, you can see some of the challenges that may be coming our way. Economies work best when they're growing, but there's only two ways for an economy to grow: add more workers or increase productivity. And the big lesson of the new normal is that there won't be more workers. The challenge of our time: provide efficient government services, but do it with a lot less money. That's what's next, Minnesota. Now, what are we going to do about it?
We can't just bury our heads and say, oh, this isn't, it doesn't affect us now, and so, we have to start now.
We're very much a can-do people when we all believe in a common goal.
Once you get to the acceptance stage, now you give yourself permission to look for the opportunities in the situation. And there are grand and glorious opportunities out there. So the sooner we get to this point, the better off we are, and the more prosperous we'll be in the future for all of us.